for your sake, I just may introduce some background about the speaker. And we have today Swami Tyaganandaji Maharaj, Minister in charge of Sri Ramakrishna Vedanta Society of Massachusetts. And we are completely blessed to have his presence here. I'll tell you why. Maharaj Guru is the direct disciple of Holy Mother. Imagine, Maharaj Guru is a direct disciple of the Holy Mother. So Maharaj belongs to the second generation of the Holy Mother's order. So that, what shall I say, seal or endorsement of Holy Mother is there in him. So we are really blessed. This very rare opportunity for us to have the presence of a monk who is the second generation of the order of Holy Mother. And Maharaj now is in, and before coming to US, I think he came in 1998. Is Maharaj? 1988, yes. So after his initiation in Vedanta in 1976, he came here. Before coming here, he served in big cities in India, Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi. You can imagine how challenging it is to serve in those big cities. And after that, after coming here, he took charge in not 1998. He joined as assistant minister. After that, he took charge as minister in charge of the center. He has written many books. The list is long. And topics are so interesting. If you really know the knower, many such interesting interviews, subjects, titles, we are attracted to. As soon as you read the title, you'll be attracted. And he has given lectures at very Vedanta conferences. And you can also see many of his articles. One message from his article which caught my attention. He says, intellectual learning has nothing to do with God realization. Intellectual learning and God realization are different. That's echoing Thakur's message. God is not in the book. I was very attracted by that statement when I read it. So Maharaj is now going to give lectures today as well as tomorrow. Today, you will be getting the treasures, as tomorrow you will be getting the freedom. You read the title. And so Maharaj, we are so delighted to have your presence here. Please take over, and from there, go ahead with this.
Thank you. We'll start with a short prayer. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayeti Rudrayatte Takshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us.
This is pick up mic.
So, those of you who were yesterday, we saw that the foundations of our spiritual life uh, are traditionally said to be these four practices. In Sanskrit, that's called sadhana chatushtaya. Chatushtaya is four, sadhana is practices, and of which the first two are discernment and non-attachment, viveka and vairagya. So last evening, we discussed a little bit about these first two, viveka and vairagya, discernment and non-attachment. And those ideas will come up again. So even if you haven't come yesterday, you have not missed too much. So today we look at the third practice, and that is collectively called as Shat Sampatti. Shat is in Sanskrit six, Sampatti is treasures, and that's how it gets translated as six treasures. Now, if they're essentially six practices. So why are these six practices clubbed together and called it just one practice? And the reason for that is, while all of these sadhana chatushtaya all are connected and interconnected, these group of six practices that we will see this morning, they are even more interdependent upon each other. And because of their great interconnection, they are considered like it's one bunch, one basket of practices. That's why together they are the third of these four practices. So let's look at them one by one, and a brief look at these practices will be helpful for us then to check what role these practices play in our life and how we can benefit from them. The first of these practices is called shama. Shama means restraining the mind. Now, when we think about the human personality, as human beings, clearly the most visible part of our personality is the body that we have. And we know it's a part of our personality, it's who we see ourselves as, and the world sees us as. That's why everyone has mirrors at home. We stand before a mirror and we think we are looking at ourselves. Really, what we are seeing in the mirror is just the body. But it just seems to be a fairly good representation of who we are. But we know also that the mirror doesn't show everything. The mirror doesn't show our mind, the kind of thoughts, emotions, feelings that we have, the memories that we have. The mirror is incapable of showing that. But they are also part of my personality. So the mind within us, we know that both body and mind are good instruments, provided we train them well, discipline them well, we take care of them. And that's why there is an increasing awareness about the health awareness that most people, not everybody, but most people generally tend to be careful about what they eat. We don't want to put too much junk food in our body because we know that we will suffer. Are we equally careful about what food we are giving to the mind? Because just as the body needs its food for nourishment and to become strong, the mind needs a food also to be strong and to be nourished. And the mind gets nourished by the different images, thoughts, and ideas that we put into the mind. So we might have breakfast, lunch, and dinner for food, but the mind is being fed by the kind of books that we read, the kind of television programs you see, the kind of movies you see, the kind of company we keep. All of these, through conversations, through books, and all of that, the mind is being fed. Now, just as it is possible to eat junk food and destroy the body, it's possible to allow junk thoughts, junk ideas to go inside, and then that destroys the mind. And a mind which is not under control becomes like an enemy. The Gita points out that the mind can be a good friend, it can be a good enemy. And the mind, we have to take greater care of the mind because the mind has been with us for a really long time. The body has been with us only from the time we were born. And when we die, they will take and bury it or burn it. And the body will finish. But the mind, when we die, the mind doesn't die. The mind is very subtle, sukshma. It has a long shelf life. So in every birth, we get a new body, but in every birth, we don't get a new mind. In fact, it's the mind that provides a continuity from one life to another life. That's why even if we grow up in the same family, all the siblings, they have the same set of parents, perhaps they go to the same school, everything is same. And yet, brothers and sisters turn out to be so different from each other. Because when we come into this world, we don't come with a blank mind. We already come with a mind that has had so many experiences in the past. And we have to therefore take extra care of the mind. So it's helpful to know a little bit about how the mind functions. The mind is so subtle, and depending on the kind of functions the mind performs, it is sometimes given different names. Of course, you have heard about the ego, the intellect, the mind. It feels as if there are many different things inside, or it feels at least there is something inside which are the different compartments. But it's that those are not compartments. There is a subtle part within us. When that subtle part performs these different functions. So in Sanskrit, they say, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha. Whenever that aspect of the mind, when we are weighing the pros and cons about different things, when you have to take a decision and we are wondering, should I do this, should I do that? These different choices, we are weighing these choices in the mind, then that functionality, then it is called the mind, manaha. Then, after weighing these different choices that we have, when we then take a decision, we determine, okay, this is what I'm going to do. When we make a choice, that is called Nishchayatmika Buddhihi, the determinative faculty. So it's not like some different thing. Buddhi is not different from mind. It's just that when the mind decides to take a decision, sorry about that. When the mind decides to take a decision, then that functionality of the mind is called buddhi or intellect. The mind also provides us with a sense of I, the I-ness, that every time, from the moment we wake up in the morning till we sleep, everything we do with the awareness, I'm doing this, I'm saying it. So that sense of I, that's what it's called ahankara. Aham is I. That which creates that sense of I. And that sometimes in psychology people say ego. The mind is also, you could think of it as a form of a container which carries all the thoughts, emotions, and feelings that we have. And that functionality of the mind is sometimes then they call it chitta. So all these are different names that are given: chitta, buddhi, ahankar, man. These are all different functionalities of the mind. Now, it's also helpful to to remember how desires come into the mind. So, if you we know that when you take a container and start heating water in a container, And after some time, as the water starts getting warm and is nearing the boiling point, bubbles start arising from the bottom of the container, and then they start coming up to the surface. That's essentially how the mind functions. So the mind that we have has at least two parts, you could say. One is the unconscious part, and the other is a conscious part. It's almost like most homes have a basement, and then there is the main floor, which is where we generally live and welcome visitors and so on. But there is the basement where people don't generally go often. Oftentimes, basement just becomes whatever you don't know what to do with or where to put. People just kind of leave it in the basement. And oftentimes, people don't want to go into the basement because it's like a lot of rubbish is gathered there. You haven't. We only tend to keep that part of the room or part of the home clean where we are visitors are going to come and they will look, so we just kind of make it all right. But since we don't go to the basement often, and then just nobody bothers to kind of keep the basement clean. Is that the experience of some of you at least? And so similarly, the mind also has a basement. And that basement of the mind is called the unconscious mind. It is something we are not always conscious about. But then the upper part of the mind, that's the conscious mind. Now, generally, our basements tend to be smaller than the main house, but the mind, it's the opposite. The unconscious mind is the larger part of the mind. So, although we might think that I know who I am, I know what's in my mind, which is not really true. Most of us are aware of probably not more than 2 to 3% of the mind. 97 or 98% of the mind is unconscious, it's basement. We have rarely gone there. On some rare occasions, suddenly some thought will come into the mind, some desire will come into the mind. And we will think like, from where did this thought come? Where did this image come? Actually, it was not like floating anywhere outside. It was all along inside our own mind. It was in the basement and we didn't know it. But these are called the impressions that dwell in that basement are called samskara. And samskar is a Sanskrit term which essentially means an impression. So every action that we do, every thought that we think leaves this subtle impression on the mind. And each impression is called a samskar. So now to give you an example, suppose somebody has never drunk coffee in their life. It may be difficult to find anyone who has not drunk coffee, but imagine a person has never drunk coffee. And the first cup of coffee you give this person takes it, takes a sip, and loves it. It's such a wonderful feeling on the tongue. You have a really well brewed coffee. And so he's drinking. Then, so this is karma. You are doing some action. You're picking up the cup of coffee and drinking. So that's the action part. Now, every action will produce a result. Karma will produce a karma phal. Now, the karma phal here is the joy you get while after drinking that coffee. So, action and its result. Now, that's the visible result. You immediately feel happy. But there is also an invisible result. So, that first cup of coffee I took, it produced joy, which I could experience, but it also produced one samskara. Call it a coffee samskar if you like. So this coffee samskar goes and dwells inside the basement. It just goes and quietly sits in one corner there. The function of this samskar is to produce a future desire. So next time you're passing by a Starbucks, just seeing that, or you kind of get that wonderful fragrance of coffee being brewed there, that external seeing or that smell or that fragrance triggers this samskar which is in your mental basement, and that comes up on the top part of the mind. Just like the boiling water, the bubble comes up on the top, that's coffee samskar produces a coffee desire. That's when the desire comes, oh, I would love to have coffee. Now, every time a desire comes, we may not act upon it. Like right now, with this moment, some of you might feel it will be good to, now that I've spoken so much about coffee, that desire may have come in the mind of some of you. It will be good to have a coffee. But then you also think, right in the middle of a talk, it will be very rude to get out for a cup of coffee. So even if that desire has come, you just kind of ignore it. Now that's important. When you ignore it, where does that desire go? And we might think it just disappears. Actually, it doesn't disappear. It goes back into the basement and waits for the next opportunity. Now, but sometimes it will happen that when the desire comes up, oh, coffee desire, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go and drink coffee. So the willpower within us, Ichha Shakti, that grabs that desire. And when the willpower grabs the desire, it becomes sankalpa, it becomes intention. And when we convert that samskar into intention, then we start walking inside the Starbucks and order a cup of coffee. And then we drink it. So now, you only had once a coffee samskar. Now you had your second cup of coffee. So now you again enjoy it. That's a visible experience. But because you had the second cup, you now have the second samskar. So where you had only one coffee samskar, now you have two. Now think about the number of coffee you have drunk, amount of coffee you have drunk all through life. How many coffee samskars are lying inside? So it's not a wonder that every time somebody speaks about coffee, you feel like, okay, it might be good to have a cup. Because all those samskaras are getting triggered and coming up in the form of desire. Now, this is just one example of coffee. All the experiences you have had, all the actions that you have done, all the thoughts that you have thought, each and every one of them has left a samskar in the mind, which means we have billions and trillions and gazillions samskars within us. Not only what we did in this life, but in all of our previous lives. It's like these chips, computer chips. They're very tiny, but they can store so much information. It's like this. The mind is like that. It's like a even super chip. It stores all those samskars there inside. And when an appropriate trigger happens, and that's how these different desires come in the mind. Though desires are not coming from anywhere outside. The outside things are only triggers. But the samskar is there within us. Now, where do we need control? Where do we need restraint? We cannot stop the desires from coming because they are just being triggered by samskar which are already there. Where we do have control is in deciding which desires to say yes to and where we say no to. That we do have. And that's why most of us, if we have any control at all, not every time we have a desire, immediately go and do what it says. A lot of times, either the time is not appropriate, the place is not appropriate. We say, no, no, even if this is the desire come, I say no to it. Sometimes we say yes to it. Every time we say yes to it, we are creating more samskar. We are also making that desire stronger. Every time you say no to it, you make the desire weaker. And so wisdom consists that whenever desires come in the heart, to be able to say, when should I say yes? When should I say no? If we are able to make good choice about that in life, we will be happy. And so all of the times we have experienced pain and suffering in life, and that is because we said yes at the wrong time for a wrong thing, or we said no to a wrong thing for a wrong time. And so restraint of the mind, shama, really means having that wisdom. And as we saw, that discernment, viveka, and non-attachment play an important role. So these two are mutually interdependent as well. If I have good discernment, a very clarity of perception, I will know exactly if a desire comes into the heart, when to say yes and when to say no. On the other hand, if I have control over my mind, then when no matter how strong a desire comes in the heart for something, and if I know that it is not good for me, it is unhealthy, it is weakening, it is self-destructive, then I will say no to it, even if it is very strong. Now, when we have the ability to control our mind that way, then the mind becomes a great friend. It's like having a good dog. How many of you have pets at home? Good. So you understand the value of having a good pet which is well trained. Because if a dog is well trained, it brings endless joy, just perpetual fun. The dog will never make you feel get bored. But if your dog is not well trained, then it can be a nuisance. It will be most troublesome thing. A mind is like a pet. If we train the mind well, discipline it well, then it brings so much joy. That joy that comes from a well-restrained mind is called, in Sanskrit, there is a term for it. It's called Shama Sukham. The Sukham, the joy that comes from that restraint of the mind. So that's the first of these 6 treasures. The ability to control the mind well. If we want to be happy, we need to have control over our own mind. The second practice is called Dhamma. Dhamma means control of the senses. So we have 10 senses. There's a senses of the knowledge. There is senses, the word in Sanskrit is indriya. The sense of knowledge is called jnanendriya, jnana indriya. And the senses of action are called karma indriya, karma indriya. Now, so control of these senses is also important in the not only spiritual life, but life in general. There is a verse in one of the Upanishads called the Kathopanishad. It goes like this. Paranchi khani vyatrinat swayambhuhu tasmat parang pashyati na antaratman. What it means is, paranchi khani, when God made us, God created us, and God gave us these senses, they were a little defective. But defective in the sense, God should have thought about it a little bit more about before creating our senses. Because all of our senses, they're naturally outward going. So they effortlessly go. All that I need to do is to open my eyes, and no effort is needed. Automatically, whatever is in front, I will be able to see. If my ears are in working condition, whatever sound occurs, I'm able to hear it. So sound, I mean, essentially, when we say, oh, I'm experiencing the world, what are we really experiencing? We are just, what we are just seeing is these different frequencies. Certain of these frequencies, color, form, sound, inform frequencies, the eyes have the ability to process these frequencies and give us this visual effect of it. Then some sound frequencies, of course, the eyes are useless. The ear is able to process these sound frequencies, and I'm able to hear and distinguish between different sounds. Similarly with smell, touch, and taste. I mean, many of you, how many of you are in a tech world with computers? Yeah, I can imagine being in Austin, probably many of you are. It's one of the very technical cities. So essentially, I mean, I have very minimal knowledge, so I'm no expert in this. But when you write, when a computer code, for those who understand coding, it all makes it's a language in itself. You all understand what it means. Those who have no idea what a computer code is, it's just going to look just as a random set of numbers, symbols, and letters. It wouldn't make any sense. But essentially, when we sit before a computer, and now, of course, all that rest of us have to do just keyboard and boom, all the letters come and colors and videos, it just happens naturally. And we might think, oh, these computers are so wonderful, so easy to do. But those who know what's happening behind the screen know it's a very intricate thing. There is millions and millions of lines of code have been written which we have no idea about, but the final product, even our grandparents can operate a computer. The world that we experience is not too different. What essentially is going inside this is a kind of a God made computer. All these different frequencies are going inside, and then this color, sound, taste, touch, everything is appearing very effortlessly. So, I mean, that just takes all poetry out of the world, but essentially just a set of frequencies that we are seeing outside. But now, these senses are able to go and capture it. What the senses are incapable of doing is kind of going inside and seeing us. So I can see everything outside effortlessly. I have no idea what's happening inside me. And so the senses, in some sense, make us so we've grown up thinking that the world is all that we have and that is what we need to know. Oftentimes most of us don't pay as much attention to who is seeing this world, who is this person seeing the world, what do I know about the person. But when we try to do that, we find it difficult. I mean, what is meditation? Meditation, essentially, why do people close their eyes when they meditate? Why do they want to sit in a quiet room? What are we really trying to do? What we are trying to do, as much as it is humanly possible, is to shut out these frequencies that come from the outer world. We close our eyes, and hopefully, I'm able to shut out all the visuals. You go to a quiet room and put noise cancelling phones, and you're trying to shut out all the sounds. And also, most people don't want to eat while they are meditating. So you're shutting out all the taste buds. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to shut out the world. But then what happens? We try to shut that out as much as we can. And then all that we see is darkness. Essentially, when you shut out the objective world, we should have had a better luck trying to find out this person who is experiencing the external world. And we just see darkness and we just get bored and say, what is this meditation? Just boring. There's nothing to see. That is the problem. So senses, now we can't say we just shut the senses all the time, because all knowledge that we have, the knowledge of the world, does come through the senses. The senses are windows, are doorways through which things can come in. But we know also that we don't want to allow indiscriminately anything and everything going in. That's why a lot of times now people have, also for security, you have kind of cameras, outdoor cameras, indoor cameras. Because when we are living in a home, we need doors and windows. We need doors, otherwise, how will we go out of the home? But a door that can help me go out can also make people come in. While we want guests and relatives to visit us, we don't want any random stranger suddenly walking into our home. That's why we have all these cameras to make sure that who is coming in and who is going out. Now, our senses are like those doors and windows. We need those doors and windows because that's how all knowledge about the world comes. But we know that whatever is outside can be positive or negative. It can be uplifting or it can be degenerating. It can be filled with joy or it can bring a lot of terror. And so, what we need is this mechanism. It's sometimes what to think about it, going back to the computer analogy again. Um, an internet is such a blessing in the last 30, 40, 50 years, when we have the internet, and it's kind of opened a whole new doorway. It's so wonderful. But we also know the internet, while it has some wonderful things we can learn, but there are also malignant actors out there who can, if you just leave it open, there are people creating destructive program, viruses, and so on. So the best way to keep your computer safe is to not go on the internet. Then it's completely safe. But then you have shut off all the knowledge and wonderful things that you can get it. So what most of us tend to do, we we have an internet connection, but then we try to have a firewall or something which will prevent these unwanted things from coming and destroying our computer. So we, just as we have things that were good for me, allow them inside my computer, but not allow these viruses and destructive things to go in. Now, this is like a computer. Do I have a good firewall within me by which I want to be in touch with the world, allow all the positive, healthy, uplifting things to come in, but also stop anything that is destructive? I mean, how do I do that? Now, again, I do have control over it. Just as, same as for the control of the mind. The visuals, what do I open my eyes to? If I find something that is going to take me away from the goal of my life, it's going to take me, for a religious person, that would be taking me away from God, away from a spiritual ideal, then I say, I don't want to see such things. If there's some destructive talk or songs or whatever, if it's going to take me away from God, I should say I shouldn't hear it. So again, the choices we make in life, about the kind of friends we keep, the kind of conversations we have, the kind of books we read, because all of these knowledge is coming through the senses. So if I make wise decisions regarding this, then I'll have better control over my senses. And one way, of course, is the sense of action is one through the sense of taste and eating. How much restraint do we have of the food that we consume? Again, people who have control over their food habits know that it's easier than to maintain good health, and that can be a source of great joy. But if we do unrestrained way, then it can bring a lot of pain and sorrow as well. So both restraint of the mind and restraint of the senses are the first two of these treasures. The third one is called uparati. Uparati means you have managed to control your mind and senses quite a lot, but sometimes, in spite of your control, the mind and the senses can still slip away. It's like sometimes you take your dog out for a walk and the dog is on leash and so it's under control. But maybe the dog sees something very interesting and your leash hasn't been so perfect and is able to wiggle out of that or just pulls you suddenly and breaks free and goes. And we know a dog who is on leash is easier to control. A dog who is not on leash, it's difficult to catch that dog again. Exactly in the same way, the mind in spite of our best efforts, in spite of having some amount of control over the mind and the senses, sometimes the pull could be so strong that the mind will break free. At such times, we need to find a way to kind of pull back the mind. That's called uparati in Sanskrit. And one way of accomplishing that is um, there is a sutra in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. It's called Vitarka Badhane Pratipaksha Bhavanam, which means that when something, an unwanted impulse comes in the mind, then I must create an opposite wave. Now, let me explain. What it means is that suppose, not to give a more concrete example, is let's say a person has just had a visit to the doctor, then you have done your labs, and the labs show that you have high blood sugar. And the doctor says, well, this is not a good sign, so you need to cut down on your sweets. And so, yeah, for health, you are supposed to do that. Now, this person who has been told this way has had lots of sweets in the past. So imagine lots of sweet samskaras are there inside. So every time, and the rest of the family doesn't have a sugar problem. So they bring sweets, and the sweets are there on the table in front. And those samskaras come up. Oh, have a little bit, one rasagulla. It's not going to hurt you, just a little bit. But you also hear then the doctor said, no, it's not good for you. Now, that's where the upariti needed, because your impulse is, because of those strong samskaras, to go and grab it. Now, the mind, you know it's not good for you. In spite of that, you kind of just already pick up that rasagulla in your hand and you're about to pop it in your mouth. At that time, that sutra says, Pratipaksha Bhavanam. Pratipaksha Bhavanam means think about the amount of pain and suffering it can produce to you. So a person will say, maybe now I can enjoy this rasagulla. And I mean, how much joy rasagulla can give? I mean, think about this way, how much joy any food can give. All of the joy that food gives is only this about 4 or 5 inches space. As long as the food is here on your tongue, that's the fun part of it. That's the joy of it. Once the food crosses this area, it's just hard work afterwards, just digesting it. There is no fun after that. The fun is in a very small area, small distance. So if this person now who's already picked up the rasagulla in hand because of the past samskar, and now pratipaksha bhavanam means to say, okay, a little bit of taste and joy might come, but afterwards, this rasagulla is going to travel inside my body. This sugar is going to be absorbed by my blood. Next time I go to the doctor will kill me if he sees how much my sugar has increased. But not just that. I mean, I'm no health expert, but we know that when these labs are labs are way beyond normal, then it creates different kinds of health complications. And then when the complications become even more, hospitalization is no fun. When you go, there's all these different tubes going inside and surrounded by all these nurses and the whole atmosphere, and you never know what's going to happen. That's no fun. So when you just pick up the rasagulla, and rather than just mechanically popping it inside, this person who has already been told by the doctor not to eat it suddenly sees, oh, sugar will increase. I'll go to the hospital. There's going to be pain. I might even die soon. Then this person says, okay, I don't want it. That's what uparati means, pulling back, that you're almost going to do something, but you have the patience to pause and see, what will this do to me? Sometimes it works, sometimes it may not work. But at least we can try. I mean, now nowadays, for a long time, the tobacco industry kept the knowledge, although the research showed it, how harmful tobacco can be to health. They suppressed it, but now when it became known in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when that became a big issue, now they have a statutory warning on cigarette packets saying smoking is injurious to health. Does it mean it always works? No. Uh, Still, cigarettes are still being sold, people are still smoking. But at least there is some way of at least reminding them, know what risk you are taking by doing certain things in life. So Uparati is that. There is not somebody else telling me, but I have to be telling myself. Thinking in a certain way, doing in a certain way, is it in my interest? It might bring me some short term joy, some immediate pleasure, but long term, I'm going to suffer for it. So that's the third practice, the ability to stop ourselves. One other way to do that is, let's say, and because everyone has these different trigger points, there could be things people hate. And so sometimes a wave of hatred can come. You're thinking about a subject or something which you have a strong bias or prejudice against it, then the kind of dislike or disgust or hatred can come into the heart. Now, that's not a good feeling to have, but it's already come. What do you do about it? And then they say, if I can consciously raise an opposite feeling inside, then it's become easier to control. For instance, love and hatred that don't go together. So if I find my mind is filled with hatred at some point, I must make a conscious effort to think of something that naturally produces love in my heart. Then that hatred will automatically go away. Again, it will work sometime, it may not work sometime. But that's true with everything in life. We just have to see what works for us. Anger, for instance. And you can try that. If some people have anger issues, and even if you don't have anger issues, sometimes we get irritated, we get angry. Now, as long as we know we are getting angry or about to get angry, we become aware of it. No, this person is irritating me. I'm now going to get upset. Up to that point, it's okay. And at some point, we, that anger overcomes us to such an extent, then we lose control. And then we might just say something and do something because that time we are not ourselves. And then later on, when the mind calms down, then people regret, oh, I was so angry. I should not have said that.
Maharaj, warm water.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Warm water.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, when we get extremely angry, we lose control over ourselves. And then later on, we regret. Later on, we feel, oh, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that. So, when we become aware of that anger within us, is there a way to stop it? Now, one way is to just leave the room. Whichever is the immediate cause of my irritation or anger, as long as the triggering cause is in front, it will be difficult to control. So just kind of leave the room is one way. The other way is to force yourself to smile. It's very difficult to be smiling and yet being nasty at the same time. You see, the emotions that we have and the corresponding physical changes that occur, they are related. You see the face of an angry person. There's one set of muscles, they'll get taut, and it's a very angry face is a very typical, a different reaction. You see a person who is happy and contented and cheerful, a different set of muscles. So even smiling, a small, even a Mona Lisa smile, a small little smile also, they say almost up to 26 different muscles act to give that smiling effect. And everyone loves a smiling face. And so, if one feels angry at some point, or upset, or irritated, and about to say something nasty to someone, force yourself to smile. It will not be a natural smile, it will be a forced smile. But even that works because then it takes away that anger. So, one among the many strategies you can try. The idea is that when the mind or the senses lose control, we need to find a way to kind of bring it back. So, that is the third practice called Uparati. Then the fourth practice is what Swami Vivekananda called probably one of the most difficult practices in life. And that is in Sanskrit, they call it titiksha, which means forbearance. All of us who are old enough recognize that no matter how much we might want, no matter how much control freak we may be, not it's never going to happen that everything in life is going according to plan, everything as I wanted it. There's always going to be something which I didn't want it to be that way. There's always going to be some people, some situations, something or the other which will not be to my liking. What shall I do? Because oftentimes it's things like that that create irritation, anger, or fear, or depression. Just can be, all kind of negativities can occur when things don't happen the way we want them to happen. Now, the simple thing is, if something doesn't go the way we want it to go, and if we have the ability to change it and make it our way, do it. But there are a lot of times you don't have the ability to do it. Now, in Boston, where I live, in winter, some days are good, some days is a snowstorm. You may hate snowstorms. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, the most you can do is don't go out of your home. But still, you can't stop the snow from falling. Now, do we want to go through life? Well, yesterday when I came, the flight was delayed by 6.5 hours. There's nothing I could do about it. What do we do? You could get upset, you could get angry, you could curse at the airlines, you can do anything. But still, you can't change the situation. And in times like this, what we need is forbearance, titiksha. And if we are able to practice forbearance, we accumulate a lot of power within. People who just like blow up at every little thing. Why is this not like that? This is not good. That's not good. They're very weak people. They don't have the ability to see things are not in the way we want it. But yes, just accept life is not always going to be the way we want it to be. When we are very young, everyone has very rosy dreams. Oh, everything is going to be perfect. And when a little bit older we get, we say, no, some things are perfect, some things are not. When we get still a bit older, then say, nothing is perfect. But what do we do? Because we don't want, that's what sometimes, if you're not careful about this, when people get old, they become cynical and they become cranky and no fun. It's like all the time you're just criticizing people, all telling this is wrong, this is bad, that's terrible. Nobody wants to be around such people. And that's why now so many old age homes and retirement communities have come because people are not able to manage their own parents and grandparents. It's like, oh, they're just all the time complaining. It's like olden days, good old days. I don't know when such days existed, but at least olden time there used to be these kind of big joint families and the grandparent and everybody kind of three generations lived together. I don't know how wonderful it was, but at least our elders say how wonderful it was. But nowadays, people say, no, it's impossible to live with these cranky old people. You go and live in a retirement community. We'll go there once a week and say hello, bring some flowers, and say that's that's kind of easier than trying to live with them morning to night with such cynical people. No, we don't want. You see, all of us are getting old and older day by day. The question we have to ask is maybe the kind of experiences we have had with our own parents or grandparents, things which we didn't like. Many of us now are parents and grandparents ourselves. When we say, do I want to be like my grandparent whom no one liked? Or I will be a different grandparent, a different grandfather, a different grandmother. And one way to do that is stop complaining. Forbearance. Holy Mother, Sharda Devi, she said in Bengali, it's a kind of a pun on words. Uh, and translated, it means that when a person forbears, one who forbears survives. One who does not forbear is destroyed. That's the real. But destroyed doesn't mean physically destroyed. What it means is life will be hell. So we need this ability, the quality of forbearing. Now, Shankaracharya in the Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya says, he says three things are necessary for forbearance. And the verse goes like this: Sahanam sarvadukhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam satitiksha nigadyate. It's simply three things. Sahanam sarvadukhanam, that all the uh, unwanted things that happen in life, to bear it. Apratikara purvakam, without resistance. Chinta vilaparahitam, without grumbling and without being anxious about it. If someone can live like that, you don't need to go to heaven. You can be happy right now, right here. But it's very difficult. The first one is the most difficult thing, apratikar, without resistance. If something is wrong, of course we want to resist. Now, the good news is most people will resist it. And just as there are people creating trouble, we also need some people to stop that trouble. But we also need a few people who are just saying, I'm just going to watch and see the will of the nature or the will of God functioning. Apratikar purvakam means I'm not going to resist. That I will see that everything happens through God's will. Now, this is extremely difficult. Most people can't do it. But it's good to know that's the ideal. The second thing is without getting anxious about it. Anxiety, what is the difference between anxiety and fear? Fear it has a definite object. One can say, oh, I'm afraid of snakes. I have fear of snakes. Now, if I have fear of snakes, I know what to do. Don't go anywhere near snakes or keep some distance because the fear can be managed. At least have a solution. But people are like, I have anxiety. But anxiety about what? It's just kind of a vague anxiety. There is nothing you can do about it. So sometimes they say, if you have anxiety, first convert it into a fear. Then you will have something you can do about it. But just anxious, oh, I'm anxious about future. Okay, so what? Everybody has a future, something or the other is going to happen. But simply anxiety, just waste of energy, waste of this thing. And so, but again, anxiety is not new to any of us. We all have anxiety one way or the other. Now, one way which always works is to recognize that none of us has seen a little baby suffering with anxiety. A little baby passing sleepless nights thinking, will I get my milk tomorrow or not? It never happens. And that's because a baby knows my mother is there. I don't have to worry about it. My milk will be ready tomorrow. It'll be there. But when we grow up, we get anxiety. Oh, what will happen now? The stock market, gas prices, what will happen? Now, if we have faith, you see, physically we may grow, but for a spiritual seeker, we are always God's children. We are always babies. And so, if we can retain that dependence on the divine father or divine mother, and know that we are never alone, we are never by ourselves, then just like a baby can be completely reassured that my mother will take care of me, a bhakta, a devotee will say, God is there, Holy Mother is there, Ramakrishna is there, or Jesus is there, or Buddha is there, that I will be taken care of. Now, for that, a deep faith is necessary, but with that faith, anxiety can be eliminated. And a third thing, Shankaracharya says, is without grumbling, vilaparhitam. Now, grumbling is another most useless activity. It just makes you venting a little bit, but doesn't solve any problem. You go on grumble, this is like this is like that. So nothing has changed. I've just kind of taken my own peace of mind is gone. So if I can eliminate these three things, I can eliminate grumbling, I can eliminate anxiety, then I will survive in this world. Otherwise, I'll become like a cranky person when everybody wants to stay away from me. If we want to be loved by others, and if we want the ability to love others, then there has to be some acceptance, some recognition that I'm not the center of the universe. Everything around me doesn't have to be according to how I want it. So that's this fourth practice. It's called titiksha or forbearance. The fifth practice is called samadhana. Now, samadhana in many Indian languages, it just means contentment. But if you go to the root meaning in Sanskrit, the prefix here is sama, means samyak, right. Adhana means putting. So if you go to the literal meaning of samadhana, it means putting, and here it's referring to the mind, putting the mind in a right way, at the right place, which is in other words concentration. And so samadhana literally means concentration. Now, all knowledge in every field has come through concentration. Without concentration, there can be no knowledge. And this is an important quality in spiritual life. When the mind is controlled, when the senses are controlled, when we have the ability to pull them back when they go berserk, when we have this forbearance, because if you're sitting for meditation, it's getting like the temperature is 95 or 100, and while you're sitting there, oh my God, it's so hot here, it's terrible, it's so humidity. It's not meditation. You're meditating on the heat, not on God. So, so forbearance really means not allowing these things to take me away from God. And then concentration. So then concentration becomes easier. And when then mind is able to focus on the divine, just as you focus it on the external world, all the secrets of the world come, whether it's astronomy, astrology, all these different topics. But now, if I focus it on me, then I know who I truly am. Deep within, inside my body, inside my mind, inside everything, who I am. I mean, that's the tragedy. We know so much about the world, we know so little about our own selves. But concentration can give us that. But concentration comes only to someone with a pure heart, a pure mind. A restless mind is no good for concentration. That's why, and that's how these six practices are related and interrelated. That restraint of the mind, restraint of the senses, the ability to practice forbearance, all of these things are very important for concentration. And finally, the sixth practice is called Shraddha. Shraddha is sometimes translated as faith. And sometimes, in English now, sometimes they just even refer to religious traditions also as faith. The Hindu faith, the Christian faith, the Buddhist faith, and so on. And referring to religions as faith sometimes gives us a wrong idea, as if faith is something only connected with religion and everything else, science, no faith is needed, or the rest of the life can manage without faith, which is not true. Without faith, life would be impossible. Every time you fly somewhere, you have no idea who the pilot is. You have no idea whether the pilot has slept well last night. But we just sit inside with faith. When you're 32,000 feet high, you have no idea which direction we are going. But we have faith that it will land at the place we thought it will land. When you go to a restaurant, you don't know who has cooked your food. Whatever they put before you, you just eat it. You have faith that there is no arsenic in it. None of these things we do with evidence. And yet, we think faith is only in religious matters. But without faith, life would be impossible. And so, we can do all of these things with faith. But if somebody says, "Oh, I have faith in God," what is the proof? What is the evidence? No, you are asking evidence for this. What about the evidence here? Without evidence, I'm doing all these things in life. So we are not very consistent. There are certain things we think we know how to deal with it. Most of the things we don't know how to deal with them. So faith is very important. At the very least, now people who want to undertake a deeper spiritual study, who want to be religious, a faith is needed because in the beginning, anything religious activity you do, it is going to need an investment of time and energy. When you could decide to go and attend a lecture, you're giving 2 hours or 2.5 hours of your energy and your time. And it's an investment. And any good investment strategy would be that you want to get more than what you put in. That's what all financial investment is. I'm investing money and I hope I get some interest or some dividends and I'm going to get something more out of it. That's true with everything in life. So when we invest time and energy in the religious or spiritual things, I'm investing my time, investing my energy, and I'm hoping, I'm having faith that what I'll get back will be something more that is worth my investment. But in the beginning, we have no proof whether it will happen or not. So even in order to invest some time and energy into it, I need some faith. So any religious activity begins with faith. It has to begin with faith. But it doesn't have to end in faith. All my life I can't be saying, "Oh, I have faith in God." It has to go one step further. Yes, what does it mean I have faith in God? It means, well, God exists. If God exists, then I should be able to see God. I should be able to talk to God. I should be able to hear God. Otherwise, simply by saying I have faith in God is pointless. And therefore, faith is the starting point in spiritual life. But what we want eventually is that faith developed into actual experience. And that's why in Vedanta they say that it's not enough to have simply faith in it. But faith is important. We need that faith to be able to make that good investment in the beginning of our time and energy into that. But what we want is to then transform that faith into actual experience. That is why when Narendranath, the young Vivekananda, when he went as a young teenager, when meeting the religious leaders of his time, he did not go on asking them, "Do you have faith in God? Do you have faith in God?" No, he asked, "Have you seen God?" Because only when you see something, experience something, then you don't need faith afterwards. You need faith when you're not able to see it. I don't need faith that there is this microphone in front of me. I'm able to see it. I'm able to touch it. But if I didn't, if my eyes were closed, And then if I'm like Kandhari, I'm brought here, then we say, well, then they just tell me there is a microphone in front of you. Then if I have to just have faith in them, then I just kind of do like this, and then I'm able to touch it and say, oh yeah. Now I don't need faith because actually I can see, I've experienced it. So similarly in spiritual life, that I begins with faith. But if I do everything the way it ought to be done, and that's where these four basic practices come. If I have discernment, viveka, if there's non-attachment, vairagya, then these six practices, then we will see that that faith will mature into a direct experience. So that ability to transform faith into experience can come through these practices. And in order to do these practices, we need faith. So with this, we have come to these a quick look at these six practices. It's called Shat Sampatti, which is forms the third of the four basic practices. And tomorrow we will take a look at the last of these. But if you have now any thoughts, ideas, comments, questions, one by one, we can use this microphone to ask your question.
It's okay, I think God has given me.
No, but it needs to be taped.
Good morning, Maharaj.
Yeah.
You really gave an excellent talk. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
it's very practical, and I think everyone can take a lot of lessons out of that. And I hope I can remember my five grandchildren as a good, funny grandpa, not a cranky one.
Mm.
Now, I do have one question where you talked about forbearance and resistance, right? Which is very hard, even according to Swami Vivekananda and Charadama. But at the same time, it is the same Swamiji who said that you need to rise up, you need to protest when you see wrong. So where is that fine line? I understand you can't protest and you can't resist on everything in life, but history has also shown us, right, that when we don't, so many wrong things get done
Sure.
that could have been prevented, as there's a saying, a stitch in time saves nine. So what would your guidance be for mere mortal like us to look into it, and what's the right way of approaching that problem?
See, most of the time when we protest, we are not doing it out of choice. When we are upset about something, we cannot stop ourselves from being upset about it. And so Swamiji knew that. And he also pointed out that just as there are people doing crazy things in the world also needs another group of people trying to stop those crazy things. So protests are a necessary part of creation. But again, a lot of these things are not happen. People who do terrible things, it's not like they have a choice. Their samskaras are such that they cannot stop themselves from doing terrible things. And then there are this other group of people, they cannot stop themselves from stopping these people from doing crazy things. We have an illusion of freedom. We have an illusion like, oh, I'm choosing to do this. But if we look deeply, 99% of the time, we cannot stop ourselves from choosing, making the choices we did. It's a little bit like this. When we go, let's say, to buy a pair of shoes, and of course, you go to a shop, and then if you're very choosy and picky about it, then you'll have some 10 or 12 pairs. You'll try them out. Should I do this? Should I do that? And finally, you choose one pair. Okay. And then you buy that. Now, apparently, it looks as if you had complete choice. There were these 12 different pairs in front of you. You could have chosen any of them, and you chose one. You agency of choice. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is you could not have chosen any other pair. You already have some pre-existing ideas about, oh, this color suits me. This is a good way to have. So the kind of the ideas that are existing in your mind about what suits you, what's good for you, that that situation within made you choose that, and it was not as free as you think. And that is true with most things in life, that we have a sense of agency, but we just do the things. It's sometimes like this. There's also a lot of study has been done about this, that we human beings like to think, oh, I'm a very thoughtful person. I weigh all the pros and cons and then I choose, which may be true sometimes. But most of the time, most decisions in life, including some major decisions we take, are really guided more by our emotions than our intellectual ability. What usually happens is when we want to choose something, there is a predisposed emotional condition. We say, I like certain thing. This is what I'm going to do. But then we are also, and this is happening completely unconsciously. We also like to, no, I must weigh all the pros and cons and I must think about it deeply. But I already have the decision in mind. And then I find the right reasoning, the right evidence to take me to something that I've already decided. And then I have the satisfaction, no, I thought about everything, this and this and that. So we kind of flip the chronology. The emotions had already kind of zeroed in on something. But then I used the evidence and then tell myself, no, before taking a decision, I thought about all the issues and I kind of marshaled the evidence in a way which will take to my predetermined conclusion. Most things in life are like that. But we are very sincere. It's not like we are fooling ourselves. When we do sincerely feel that I thought every situation, but oftentimes it's we underplay the role, the emotions being such a powerful force within us. So that's true with regard to this. So what Vivekananda said was he understood majority of the people, he himself says so in his lectures. It's impossible for most people to do it. In fact, we don't want all people to do it. Because just imagine if everyone says no resistance, then there'll be nobody to stop injustice and terrible things from happening. So we need people to stop it. But just as we need people to stop it, we also need at least a few handful of people who have risen above the ups and downs of life and say, I'm just going to watch without resisting. So this small number of people are as much necessary for creation in nature as the majority who will be doing this. So Swamiji was aware of that. Yeah. Yeah. Elizabeth?
So related to desires, free will, and if the Divine Mother of God is truly the operator, but then we're working out of our impulses, then how do you reconcile those two things, that we're having free will to make these decisions based on our desires, but it's really the mother that's the operator through us?
Yeah, true. Yes, the mother is the real operator. But if we don't know it, then we go through life thinking as if we are the operators. And if we think in our mind that we are the operators, then we become responsible for whatever it is we do. So if we eliminate that thinking that I'm not the operator, the mother does everything, then we are free from it. But the important thing is to apply that wisdom consistently. Most of us who've been reading these books and are aware of it, like, oh, God is the doer, God does everything, and we are only instruments, we read that. But what we tend to do is we apply it selectively. Like when there is something I don't know what to do, and said, well, God is the doer. But next time, what shall I have for breakfast tomorrow? And where shall I go now? We don't say, well, let God, Holy Mother decide it for me. So most things in life, I go taking agency for myself. And only for few things I say, oh, God is the doer. That won't do. What we want is consistency. Either take responsibility. Everything I do in life, big and small, I'm doing it. God gave me the wisdom to do it correctly. Take the credit that if it's a good action, take the blame if it's a bad action, but take responsibility. The other thing is just say, not just say, but deep down acknowledge that God does everything, which is not an easy thing to do. That every moment of my life, to not having to decide anything ourselves, but to acknowledge God does it. And therefore, in the beginning, that is something that will eventually happen in a very high state of, in an advanced spiritual state. In the beginning, I don't think it's very helpful to think God does everything. In the beginning, it's much more practical to say, no, I have this ego, I have a sense of agency, I have a sense of responsibility, certain things I need to do, and I'm going to do it. But I acknowledge the presence of God in my life, and I will seek wisdom from the divine. That yes, I'm the one taking decisions, but God, give me some clarity of mind that I will take the right decision, something that is good for me, good for the people around me. So take agency of your actions, but do it with a prayerful heart. We might still make mistakes, but those mistakes will be fewer and fewer if I acknowledge the presence of the divine in my life. That's the idea. Yes. Yes, one, then two. Okay, first the corner there. Okay, all right. So you have the microphone with you. You can, and because you won't give it otherwise, unless you get a chance to ask your question.
So when you were talking about practicing having at least a forced smile, is it when we are angry or else if the other person is angry?
Well, the other person is angry. You don't control that other person.
Yeah, I had to thought when you were saying that maybe if the other person is angry and we're trying to have a forced smile, it makes it more angry.
Just say that again. Say, I didn't hear it. Say that again.
So when you're saying that at least have a forced smile when the other person is angry,
Yeah.
It makes it more angry.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to provoke that person, you should do it. Yeah. In fact, even if the best is if someone accuses you of something or is upset, rather than getting angry in return, you just say, I forgive you. Because that makes the person even more irritated. The best way to have the revenge against your enemies is to tell them you forgive them. Because tit for tat never really helps. Yeah, okay.
Pranam Maharaj. I had a question. You mentioned that when we move from lifetime to lifetime, we lose the body, but the mind moves through the lifetime. So why is it that we believe, or it's said that when you're a little child, you have an impressionable mind? So which part of the mind is impressionable, and which part of it we are carrying from our previous lifetimes?
No, the whole mind we are carrying from the previous life. But we know that when we are very young, the most tendencies in the mind, a little baby cannot do things that an adult can do. So those tendencies are still kind of latent. And so the mind is still that time a little bit fresh because the older tendencies haven't started functioning yet. And therefore that's the time when new good impressions can be made easily. Because as we grow older, these old tendencies come up and resist any new impression. That's why when the children are little, you can kind of make them do things. Once they become teenagers, then all parents know how difficult things can be. Yeah.
So, Maharaj, just a follow-up question. So,
Yeah.
do you think environment can then suppress or express certain samskaras we already have?
What do you mean by environment?
Like, let's say, if you are brought up in a spiritual environment, like in a household which has a spiritual environment, so you think that could then express the latent samskaras that we have?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, I would think, it's a matter of probability. That is, how and which samskaras will come up when, we don't know, because all of these depend on external triggers that are present. But if I consciously introduce more strong and positive samskaras, so I mean, think about think about this way. If there is a city and every city has crime and every city has good people, but which would we say, oh, that city is crime-ridden city? If, say, proportionally, and I'm just being very, thing here, like let's say if the majority of the people are criminals, then it will be a crime-ridden city. If there are fewer criminals, then the crime will still be there, but there'll be fewer crimes. Similarly, the mind, the samskaras is a kind of a demographic. It's a city. So bad samskaras in this instance, think about them as criminals. Good samskaras are law enforcement, good people. So if there are more of these negative samskaras, then of course I'm going to do a lot of negative things in life because the probability of them coming up is more. So what we can do, it's not so easy to eliminate the existing samskaras. That takes time. But at least what I can do is I can change the demographic of my mind by consciously thinking good thoughts, good ideas. Then I'm increasing the good samskar and increasing the probability of good desires coming up. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
There's somebody here? Yeah. Go ahead.
Pranam Maharaj, thank you again for two.
Could I see your face? Okay, yeah, all right.
For two illuminating talks. So my question is related to the yesterday's talk you had, which I attended only virtually. So the two concepts I really would like to again bring to your attention is that what you say, attachment versus love, meaning when you are talking about detachment and then said, okay, attachment doesn't mean that it is love. So love could be without attachment. So my query is that, as a parent, not yet grandparent, sometimes we feel angry, upset, etc., etc. Because after you talk, my wife and I, we had a little follow-up discussion after your lecture. So my question is that is it something similar to what Thakur used to say, live life like a rich person's maid, or in Gita's Nishkam Karma, and then, when we relate it, love and non-attachment. Thank you.
Yeah. In in a true sense of the term love can only be given to God. Now, to the extent we are able to see the presence of the divine in the people around us, we are able to love them. Because love is something eternal and that cannot go to perishable things. And therefore, if we are able to see the presence of God in all, then loving them becomes so much easier. Otherwise, our love kind of gets fractured, divided. Oh, if I give too much love to God, then my love for my family will become less. So I need to then balance out, not do this too much. We then need to kind of rationing our love to different things. But that problem can be solved by saying, if I truly believe, because sometimes we say things, but we're not, again, consistency is a problem. Inconsistency is a problem. And that is, we believe that, well, God is everywhere, the divine is everywhere. At the same breath, we say there's oneness everywhere. Well, if God is everywhere, if there is just oneness, then there is no place where God is not. Then why am I seeing a human being in front of me? Because if God is everywhere, there is God in that person. So the more I'm able to remind myself of that fact, then it will be very difficult to hate anyone. It will be difficult to get upset with anyone, because then we see the presence of God in all, and then loving becomes easy. But attachment is generally goes towards finite things, perishable things. And all attachment brings a lot of pain and sorrow and suffering. And so what we want is to eliminate that attachment. I know it sounds very paradoxical, but the more detached people are, the more they can love, the more they can care for other people. The mistake that we sometimes make is to think attachment and detachment in terms of just external, attaching or detaching from others. But primarily, attachment and detachment are psychological processes. Attachment is attachment to one's own ego. Detachment is detaching from this narrow ego. So the more I'm detached from this ego, the more love comes. Why people find it difficult to love God? We are just too much attached to me, I, and mine. Me, my family, my friends. Now, where do I fit God into this? That's the problem that comes. Yeah. Yeah. Wait for the microphone.
So in that context, whenever we say our nature is joyful, contentment, God and everything, it is nature. That's what our Vedas, every
Nature, not in the sense we use
not
it.
in that sense.
Yeah.
My nature
Yeah.
is joyfulness, goodness, contentment. But my nature is talkative. My nature is short-tempered. It's automatic. I don't take any pains to work hard to get angry or anything. It's so natural. But whenever our sastras or Upanishads say you are joyful, you are contented, why, if it is natural, it should be so casual, right?
Correct.
But why it is difficult?
It's difficult because right now I am not myself. The moment I think of myself in terms of body and mind, I'm not myself. And therefore, if I'm identified with the body, the nature of the body becomes my nature. The body is mortal. The body was born at one time, will die at one time. So if I'm identified with the body, then birth and death become an issue. I mean, think about it this way. If you think you're not the body, you shouldn't be celebrating your birthday.
So, but without body and mind, I can't even think of anything, even God.
Why do you want to? No. Why do you want to think? You are that infinite. You are that oneness.
This is where my confusion is.
No, that's exactly. The confusion exists because you are not yourself. Your true self has no confusion. So whoever is confused now is the true self who has forgotten I am the true self and who is identifying with the body and mind. We think we are mortal beings because we think we are the body, because the body is mortal. People say I'm happy and miserable or I'm frustrated, but those are characteristics of the mind. So none of us says I'm a body or we don't say that. But when I think in terms of, I'm just feeling it's very aching, I'm feeling very body is aching, then I feel I'm hurting. Then that means essentially I'm saying this is who I am. So when we superimpose the characteristics of the body and mind upon myself, I'm actually forgotten my true self. So when you are identified as the Atman, then your innate joy and cheerfulness, the kind of smile you see in Sri Ramakrishna's face, that will become your smile because you are identified with the Atman there. And so, yes, cheerfulness is your nature if you are the Atman. Mortality is your nature if you are the body. Sukha dukkha is your nature if you are the mind. Think about it. Yes.
So it is said that we should have good thoughts. You told us that we should have good thoughts and positive thoughts. But everything is predetermined, right? Then how
No, who told you that?
So it was said that everything is, that is what I'm thinking. I
No.
don't have free will
No,
or
everything is,
anything.
no, you have free will.
Okay. And in which which things I have free will?
In everything you have free will.
Okay.
So fate is not destiny?
Huh?
So fate is not
No, there is no such thing as destiny. In fact, Swami Vivekananda famously said, you are the creator of your own destiny. There is no fate or destiny controlling us. Because oftentimes these words like fate or destiny become excuses to then say, oh, I'm poor little victim. What can I do? My fate is like that. My destiny. There is no fate or destiny. A courageous person, a brave person takes responsibility. Yes, I'm in a mess, but I'm in a mess because I contributed to it. Oh, poor my little destiny was such. No, it's not destiny. And so if we learn to take responsibility of wherever we are, even if we are in a hole, then I can find a way to get out of it. As long as we have the sense of I, it's useless to think about predetermination. There is no predetermination. No one is predetermining anything. So, taking responsibility. Yes, I have a sense of I have things to do. I'm going to do them as well as I can. And that's why the teaching of Karma Yoga. How can I work? How can I do things in such a way that instead of binding me, it will free me, it will liberate me. So it's good to have a healthy ego, a positive ego. Because sometimes I think we are too much in a hurry to let go of the ego. It doesn't help. Because as long as the ego is not pure, you cannot give it up. We can imagine, oh, everything God is doing. No, everything, no, I'm only doing everything. Only when the mind becomes pure, when I'm able to naturally be able to give my mind to God, such a person then can say, I'm not doing anything. Such a person actually experiences that God does everything. But until that experience comes to us, for us now saying, oh, God does everything, or nature or fate or destiny, it's just a cop out. It's just like I don't want to take responsibility for myself. So just forget about predetermination. No. Yes.
So I completely agree with the first part.
Take the microphone. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. I completely agree with what you said, the first part of it. God helps those who help themselves. At the end of the day, you should take responsibility for your actions. The dichotomy in the whole situation is when I hear at the same time that you are really not the doer and the action is all you think it is God who is doing it. Where does the subtlety that I'm missing over here, where in one form I am being told that you should take charge of your own actions. You may not, you may not take the result and let your ego be bloated with that. But at the same time, the other piece that comes is that it's, you are just, you are just what should I say, a screen. The whole action is being done by God.
Right. But you should become a screen. Right now, we are not a screen. Because the screen doesn't do anything. As long as you feel you're doing something, you're not a screen. You're doing something more than that. So we can't have it both ways. Oh, I'm this little one doing something. Oh, but in reality, God is doing something. I mean, who is God? That same God who has forgotten I am God is you. There is no God apart from you. You are the God you are the forgetful God.
Okay, now I get it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Maharaj, one question I have is when the bad samskara is coming up, in which scenario we need to restrain, and in which scenario we need to come up with good thoughts, and where we need to apply these 6 things?
No, it's like this. Samskara always comes up in the form of a desire. Now, people who are very impulsive, as soon as the desire comes, they want to act upon it. All that is required is just a short pause, that here is the desire in my heart. What will the fulfillment of this desire do? Will this desire take me closer to my spiritual ideal, take me closer to the goal of my life, or will it make me forget the goal of my life? And follow your answer. If your answer says that it's something that is going to take me closer to God, then say yes to it. If you feel it's going to make me forget myself and something that I'll come to regret later on in life, say no to it. It's simple. Yeah. You had something to say? Yeah.
Uprati, can you try and explain a little bit more? What does it mean? I'm looking at the translation. It says withdrawal from the worldly activity.
Which one?
Now, Uprati.
Uparati.
Right. That sounds more like a nivrutti rather than a pravrutti.
No, I don't know which translation are you seeing.
I'm looking at the English translation of word uprati, and I'm trying to understand what exactly do you.
No, that's exactly what I said. It's that we already have a restraint over the body and mind, on the mind and the senses. But in spite of the restraint, sometimes the force of distraction can be so strong that in spite of the restraint, the mind or the senses break free. Then we need to have a backup plan to be able to withdraw the mind or the senses which have escaped restraint. That's all.
What would be the equivalent word in English?
Hmm?
What will be the equivalent word in English
For what?
for uprati?
There is no, you see, translation, it's a big subject in itself. I mean, different people might translate things in different way. I just call it pulling back. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to go back to the thing you said about resistance.
Hmm.
Because before you said it, I thought non-resistance meant that I do everything that I have to do, whatever I think is right. But internally, I don't care about which way it happens, and I still do it to make sure things happen the way I think is right. But somehow internally, at the same time, I know nothing is really affected by
No,
whatever.
if nothing is really affected, then why should you be doing anything?
Because it's my nature to do something. So
You have become a slave to your nature. You're not doing something then consciously. It's your nature means you're just doing it. So no, what's the problem? I didn't understand your question correctly.
So before this, I thought non-resistant meant doing everything but being detached or non-attached to the results. But then you said
no, that is karma yoga. That is simple karma yoga.
I see.
Non-resistance simply means there's something happening out and you don't interrupt the process. You just stand. I mean, some sense, non-resistance in some way is a little bit like being God-like. Does God resist anything? What do you think?
No.
Then become like God. We all want to be God.
Would you recommend that for all spiritual seekers?
As if they could do it. It's not easy. It's not easy being God. Wasn't there a movie, quite some old movie, which somebody gets to become a god for 24 hours? What was that?
Even Almighty.
Yeah, even Almighty, right? Even from Hollywood now is understood. It's not easy being God. Yeah. But that's essentially what is Vedantic teaching? That me thinking I'm a human being, that's ignorance. I'm really a divine being. A divine who has forgotten I am divine and now begun to see myself as a human being. We normally think that I'm a human being trying to raise myself to a divine status, to be divine. We think that it's a human being aspiring to be divine. You can flip it and say, I'm a divine being who is acting like a human being. But most of the time we don't remember that. We act like a human being because we think we are human beings. So we are a divine being having a human experience. And if you think a divine being doesn't resist, then why should you? If I'm resisting means some divine has forgotten its little bit of its divinity, right?
Swamiji, Swamiji here.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, yeah.
So I'm trying to understand the four practices and try to see if it is a progression towards something. So yesterday we talked about Viveka and Vairagya, so discernment and non-attachment. And by developing those qualities, taking a deep look at things and trying to be non-attached, you develop the ability to restrain our mind and senses. So we have taken out whatever is capable, that we are capable of doing with our limited intellect. We have taken out the factors that are not helpful in our spiritual practices. We have, the bad company, reading the right things, controlling our senses and our mind. And then you talk about, so it's all about restraining, and then comes, there are things that are, very difficult to contain when you pull back. But after that, it kind of our willpower is not working. That is when the forbearance comes in. Like things that we cannot control, learn to forbear that. And I'm a little bit confused. So that much makes sense to me. At the end, when we talk about constant samadhanam, which I always thought as peace of mind, but you explained as concentration, and faith. So, and then you also talked about faith being a very necessary preliminary step. Like, is it all building towards something or?
No, it's not built into.
Okay.
That's why all of these practices are kind of dependent and interdependent on each other. It's not necessarily that you start with this, then this, then this. There is no chronology there. No. Yeah, but I would imagine Viveka probably would be the first, because unless we kind of look deeply and begin to understand, so it's possible to think about discernment as the first step. But then it's also possible to think about that fourth thing, which we will see tomorrow, as the first thing. Because why should we be even taking the trouble to do discernment, etc., unless there is some longing to reach the goal? So traditionally, it's kind of narrated this way, but there isn't necessarily a kind of a chronological progression in these practices. Yeah. Yes.
Maybe this is the last question.
No. There are some more people have risen. Yeah.
Is it not true that only those who have realized God can only see God in others?
Well, it's like a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
So then we'll say, well, no need for me to try to make any effort to see God in others, because when I become realized God, then I will be able to see it. But actually, even if I don't successfully to be able to do it every day, I should make an effort to see God in everyone until I'm able to do it effortlessly. And when I'm able to do it effortlessly, that time I'll be a God-realized soul. So most things in life are like that. I mean, all the practices we are doing are like that. All of these practices, with discernment, non-attachment, and blah, 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 all these practices, all of these are going to need effort. But when we are able to do it effortlessly, we'll be illumined. Yeah.
Hi, Swami. This is my understanding. I wanted to see if it's right. The way I've seen these four practices presented
is these are the qualifications before you embark on the study of non-duality, as presented in some like introductory texts. But it appears you're presenting them as independent practices. Is it right to see, like, sort of on that question, this is a progression? Once you're at a sufficient state in these four practices, then you start meditating on non-duality, or is this a
No, well, I mean, to some extent, even if we are not perfected in these four practices, we must have a little bit of it. But, and you can start, we don't know how much time we have, any of us. And so we can begin right away with some basic qualification, of course, not just like no discernment, no non-attachment, none of that will do. If you have a little bit of it, we will begin the study, but our understanding of what we study will become clearer and clearer to the extent we get perfection in these practices. So the perfection in these practices is a prerequisite for perfection in understanding non-duality. But there isn't like some turning point. Now I'm perfect in this, from tomorrow I can start non-duality. That's not necessary. Yeah.
Hello, Swami. Thank you for coming. I guess to add on to his question, based on this discussion, it feels like we all have our own samskaras. So when we hear these talks, how much of it should be taken very pragmatically, like this is logical, or how much should be nuanced and based on the situations we're presented?
No, could you just give an example? I mean, I thought everything was pretty logical, wasn't it?
I think sometimes, and this is a personal thing that I've had due to what I've been raised in pre-spirituality, but everything is a step. Every action has an example. So everything becomes within a box, and I feel like sometimes being in a box can feel very restricting and strict, and I guess I wanted to understand how we should approach this as we go through life. Like I feel like sometimes when everything's like like specific definitions of things become very we have to think of it exactly that way, and then there needs to be examples for the definitions, so then it becomes more difficult in a way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I simply look at it this way. Open your heart to all these different ways of understanding, explaining, interpretations, and so on. Accept only what makes sense to you. Don't accept anything blindly. Don't believe in anything blindly. But if something resonates with you, if something has the ring of truth, then don't let it remain simply something intellectual, because that doesn't really change life. People can talk about these very lofty thoughts all through their life. Their daily life and their life as a person doesn't change. So if we want not just kind of indiscriminately allowing everything to influence us, but we have this kind of a filter within that use whatever ability you have to screen the thoughts that come. And if your mind feels this is something that makes sense to me, then say, how can then it influence the way I think, the way I do my work, the way I relate myself to the world around me, and so on. So what we want is these positive, helpful ideas to be life transforming in some way, to make me a better human being, a better version of myself, so that I can look at my life and say, what I was 5 years ago and what I am now, I can definitely say I'm a better person, I'm a better human being. In some way, I'm going closer to whatever goal I have set for myself. That way, then you are not kind of stuck with any, because things imposed from outside don't never really stick. At some point, we're just going to resist and yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. You have anything? No. Okay. You have.
So, Maharaj, it's not a question from me.
Okay, give an answer, then I'll ask you a question.
No.
Okay.
Thank you for this lecture you provided. It reminded me, like in my childhood, I had the great opportunity to see Swami Vedanta also, and great lectures from Swami Lokeshananda. And now I'm hearing something from you, so it's a great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you want to ask something? He said.
No. Thank you,
Maharaj.
Thank you.
Maharaj, one question.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there any way to clean up all the samskaras? Because you said there are billions of samskaras already there. So.
Yeah, so right now, rather than being in a hurry to just clean the whole thing, what we want is to generate more positive samskaras, which will take us closer to the ideal and kind of suppress the other samskara. By suppressing it simply, how do we suppress it? It's simply, the idea is this. Every time a desire comes into the heart, every time I say yes to it, every time I act upon it, I'm making that corresponding samskara stronger. Every time a desire comes up and I say no to it, it's making it weaker. It's almost like if somebody, it's like sometimes like some children want to do something, they come and ask their parent, shall I do this? Shall I do this? And every time you say yes, 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 then they feel, yes, it's something wonderful. They'll keep on asking you more often. But every time, maybe sometime they ask and you feel it's not good for them. And you say, no, 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 no. You tell them no, no 50 times. Then they say, what's the point of asking dad? He's just going to say no anyway. So the samskaras are a little bit like that. If you keep on saying no, 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 then the samskaras like, no point in going as a desire because they're going to say no. So in the beginning, what we want is to strengthen these positive samskars and weaken the negative ones. In fact, in yoga sutras, they go in a very elaborate, so very symbolical language. So what they say is first weakening these negative samskars, and then they speak about drying them up. Again, it's a very symbolical language. And then only when they are dried up, you can remember, those of you who have read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he sometimes gives the example of a matchbox, that if the matches are wet, then it won't light. It has to be dry for the matches to work. So similarly, if there is too much of worldliness seeped into our mind, then these samskaras are kind of wet. You can't burn them off. So there needs to be drying them. And drying really means to eliminate this worldliness. By worldliness is mean kind of clinging to perishable things which only bring pain and suffering to us. So then these samskaras are dried up. And then they use, again, it's all very symbolical language. So they then speak about these samskaras being evaporating or burning off through God's grace in the language of bhakti, or it says in form of through knowledge. That, as the Krishna says in the Gita, just like fire reduces all fuel to ashes, so similarly, knowledge reduces all this ignorance to ashes. And ignorance, samskara, the products of ignorance. So either the power of knowledge, the knowledge of the true self, or God's grace. These are the two ways ultimately all the samskaras will go. When the samskaras completely go away, you're not going to be born again. So if anybody of you want to be born again, don't be in a hurry to eliminate all samskaras. Because there is no, it's like all the samskaras are burnt. I changed my mind. I want to come again. Too late. You can't do it. And that's why this moksha, everybody keeps saying, moksha, freedom I want. But understand the implications of freedom. Freedom doesn't mean freedom in everything. Freedom doesn't mean freedom to get bound again. Freedom, you don't have freedom to come back to samsara. And so, unless you are really disgusted with this relative existence, don't be in a hurry. There is a very ancient, there was one great thinker called Appaya Dikshita, and he is writing in one place, he says, it's a beautiful verse, and I'll mention only one line. Sa nechan na ichanapi muchyate, that once having become enlightened, and all your ignorance has gone away, And that time, na icchan, you say, no, I don't want to be liberated so soon. They said, no, whether you like it or not now, you are gone, you are liberated.
So, in the same scenario, if we start saying no to the samskara, it might come back with more pressure.
No.
How to handle the situation.
No. It doesn't generally happen. It's think about it this way. Let's say if someone, I mean, there is a possibility. As long as the samskara is there, it can trigger. But the probability of it happening become less. I mean, one example is, let's say if someone has been smoking for 30 years, every day, lots and lots of smoking. So lots of smoking samskars are there. Then this person says, okay, I'm going to give up smoking. And those who have tried that kind of know this, that once you have lots of samskaras, something, the first few days and weeks are the toughest because all the samskaras are coming up. Smoke. And no, you have to keep on saying. But if you are successful enough and to be able to say no to them for weeks, months, maybe 10 years, you have said no to them, you will see the frequency with which those samskaras come become less and less and less. There's still no guarantee. Sometimes people have given up for 20 years and again taken up again. I think it was Mark Twain who said, giving up smoking is very easy. I've done it many times. So it can come up, but the probability of it coming becomes less. So saying no is a good way to weaken them.
It works the same thing with even teenagers.
Pardon?
Even teenagers are trying to do bad things, not doing the right thing.
Who?
Teenage kids.
No. This is applying to yourself. Yes, I mean, yeah, it's because your mind is within you. Teenagers are not in your control. Once they go to college, you have little control over what they do out there. You might say no from home. They will say yes from afar. Listen, you can do anything about it. Yeah. See, all of these things we are discussing here in spiritual life is primarily about how we have to do ourselves. It's not about controlling so much about other people. We might give examples that way, but it's primarily about becoming better ourselves. And to the extent we have become better ourselves, we might have some hope of helping others become better as well. And sometimes, even as parents, grandparents, as teachers, we have to keep that in mind. That when we tell our children, be honest, be truthful, be good company, you don't watch television so much, all of those advice you give to your young ones at home will be effective if they see you doing the same thing. If you're constantly sitting before television yourself and then telling children, no, TV is bad, you shouldn't see it, of course they're not going to accept it. So you have to be before telling others what you want to do. Then only that teaching can become effective. Yes.
So coffee samskara, is it a positive one you say no or yes?
No?
The coffee samskara.
Huh.
Is it a positive one you say yes or no to it?
Is it a
positive one?
No, if it makes you forget God, it's negative. If it helps you meditate well, then it's positive. Yeah, I mean, things we'll know only by the effect it produces, right? Yeah. So thank you everyone for today. And is there anything?
Only Prasad.
Yeah, so I think.
Oh, she has something to say.
Yeah, some books here.
We have 10 copies of Maharaj's books, which Maharaj has kindly agreed to sign in this other room. You all can use Venmo, check or cash to pay. It's $10. And we have box prasad in the other house, which you all can just go around.